A little while ago I did a video and I called Jacob Rees-mogg, a scumbag. Because he is. And in that video I gave a few reasons to why he's such a shitty human being. There was a little bit of resistance in the comments, which I do enjoy, generally speaking. I do. Because if I'm wrong with an idea, being pushed on an idea will reveal where exactly I'm wrong. I think it's something that should happen throughout politics and political commentary. Jacob Rees-mogg has displayed how much of a vile human being he is yet again by blaming the victims of the Grenfell tragedy for what happened. And this comes just days after Boris Johnson blames the firefighters for what happened, despite the fact that when Boris Johnson was Mayor of London, he cut 10 fire stations. And I believe it was something like 500 individual firefighters. I have to double check that number. Now, of course, the tragedy of Grenfell happened after Boris had left, but when a local council cuts the funding, the next person who takes over the office can't just suddenly ramp it up. That's just not how it works. So don't have any delusions about this. What happened at Grenfell was an architectural nightmare that was designed and implemented by the Tories. It was the Tories who pushed for having this cladding put onto the tower, despite the fact that this cladding was well known to be disastrous. It was the Tories who cut the fire stations. And now it's the Tories who are blaming fire and rescue and the victims for what happened. These are not random MPs who exist in the Conservative Party. This is the standard template. You have MPs in the Conservative Party who very recently have said that poor people should be executed or put down. You have people like Dominic Raab and Piri Patel who have said the British worker is the laziest worker in the world. I mean, I work 2 jobs, and this is coming from people who honestly don't work that hard. I mean, Dominic Raab didn't even bother to do the research to find out that one of the busiest ports in the world is kind of an important deal when it comes to the UK's customs, imports and exports. Hell, Jacob Rees-mogg can't even go a full damn session, can't go 1 day without sleeping on the job. But as far as the Conservatives are concerned, British people are just lazy. And Jacob Rees-mogg himself said it was a good thing, a great thing, that food banks are popping up all over the shop, despite the fact that they're popping up because the Conservative government is actively attacking the country in form of defunding everything that we actually pay for. You have Conservative MPs who, after over a year and a half of investigation, get charged with 3 counts of sexual assault. And yet they're still in office. Yes, I am talking about Charlie Elfrick. You have Ian Duncan Smith, who originally came up with universal credits, and Esther McVeigh, who forced universal credits through, despite 80 independent bodies across the country saying this is a shit show. This does not work as intended. This forces people into a worse situation. And yet, they keep going with it. There are other people who do more or less the same thing that I do on YouTube when it comes to political commentary, and they are all great, but and they won't tell people how to vote, which is fine, that's them. But I will, because if you vote Conservative, this is the scumbag piece of shit you are throwing your name in with. I could never support Labour with Tony Blair because of what he did for Iraq, what he did to Iraq. Sending our soldiers in to die for a bullshit reason. I couldn't support Labour with that. I was very young, but still I couldn't do it. So if you still call yourself a Conservative at this point, when you have rapists, when you have people demanding ethnic cleansing, when you have people who are covering for child abuse, for sexual assault, who are calling for working class people and poor people to be put down, then I'm sorry, you're part of the problem. The ideals may line up for you, the party promises may line up for you, but here's the reality. The Conservative Party is full of repulsive, loathsome members of Parliament. And since 2010, they have been destroying education, they have been destroying the NHS, they have been destroying fire and rescue. And every single time they do it, they find a way of blaming someone else. The general election coming up, my biggest fear is that people will vote solely on Brexit. And that will be a massive, massive cock-up. This is not just about Brexit. Because every single vote for Conservative in this election is justification for Jacob Rees-Mogg to keep coming out with these loathsome, vile statements. It's justification for Boris Johnson to act like such a spoiled little child, a spiteful, vindictive little brat. For Esther McVeigh to quadruple down on universal credits. For Piri Patel to come out with her unbelievable racist statements over and over and over again. For Dominic Raab to come out publicly and say, I do not believe in workers' rights. We don't need them. Despite the fact that we very much fucking do need workers' rights, because with a Conservative government, well, we've seen what we get. If you care about human beings, just in general, you cannot vote Conservative. If you care about the NHS, you can't vote Conservative. If you care about fire and rescue, if you care about the homeless crisis in this country, you can't vote Conservative. It really is that simple.